Hi folks, right, so this is Shabazz from Freedom Expeditions, and we're out at Otley Chevin today with another one of the Freedom Talks. We're going to be talking about anything that's related to the outdoors really, and these talks are very much led by the person who is joining me, or the people who are joining me, and hopefully you've worked out from the first one that I did, and we're going to do a whole series of these, that they're pretty much led by the person or the people who are with me. And the subject is whatever they want to talk about, but it's related to the outdoors. Just want to reiterate again, we're not experts, okay, so we're not here to solve your problems, but what we are here to do is to share our stories with you, share our conversation with you, and hopefully it might inspire you, or it might you might empathize with something, it might trigger something in you, and that's all good. Okay, so we're here today. I'm going to introduce Danny to you. Right, so I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, so I'm Danny. I've turned 30 this month on 24th. But
30?
so I
You're
am
not 23, mate.
Yeah. So I am a whole 3 decades now. So I've been around quite a while now. Hopefully I can give you some of experience in my background with the outdoors, obviously showing my camera. I am a photographer in my spare time. I love getting out into the outdoors, especially Otley Chevin, because it's just a minefield of so much good stuff. And taking my camera out with me is where I ground myself. So hopefully we can talk you through and have a nice little chat about how I work.
So shall we walk and talk?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. And hopefully we won't trip over whilst I'm filming. But I'm just going to hold the camera out in front of me. So I think, so we're in Otley Chevin, and one of the things that we can talk about is just want to ask you about your experience really, and why do you come out into the outdoors, Danny?
So for me, the outdoors, like I say, is all about grounding myself. It's all about decompressing from anything, work stress, life stress, anything like that. You can get out into the outdoors and you could be anywhere in the world, and it just gives you this sense of adventure. If you take a different route from what you have before, or you take the same route, it doesn't really matter. You're always seeing something different, i.e. you might see a herd of deer in a field you've never seen before, or you might, like me, take a picture of something that no one's ever taken before. But for me, I love getting lost, and getting lost is my expertise. The reason I say that, when I get lost, it's fun to find my way back. So especially in Yorkshire, you can always look around and see something different, like I say. But for me, it's finding your way back. You find something to ground yourself with. So a river, a stream, a downhill slope, you can always find your way back, okay? And I think that's important in life as well. If you find something to ground yourself with, then it's very helpful.
Okay, I think the thing that kind of resonates with me there is that willingness to be lost in the first place.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always talk about with my clients anyway, is you've got 2 words in the English language, wonder and wonder. Now, I pronounce them in the same way.
Yeah.
But they're spelt differently and they mean different things.
Definitely.
But to me, they're completely interchangeable. And that's what I love. And a little bit of a plug for my company here, but with Freedom Expeditions that's the whole point. That's why I called it Freedom.
Yeah.
Because when I first came out, by the way, you will see me looking at the fall whilst I'm walking, because it's quite treacherous, this ground that we're on.
Yeah, I know the ground better than he does. Then again, I'll probably slip on my bum first.
The reason why I called it Freedom was simply because of the reason that, you know, I've grown up. My life has been in a very particular way. I've had a very sort of happy upbringing, and you know, I really enjoyed playing out with my friends and so on and so forth. Gone to school, university, blah blah blah, all the normal sort of stuff. However, that feeling of freedom, and I know there's a lot of people who are into the outdoors who do think about, what does freedom mean? what does it mean to you, for example? And for me, I didn't really find it until I discovered the outdoors. And it's always been a bit of a hobby. Now I do it professionally, but just walking on grounds like walking through this forest here in Otley, going on a rock face, doing winter mountaineering, that sort of stuff. I don't care how many times I fall, how many times I slip, how many times I get lost, how many times I do something wrong. Every time I learn something new.
And the
I
importance
experience
is
something
you
new.
get yourself back up.
Absolutely.
And that's
Yeah.
very important in life as well, is getting yourself back up. Whenever you face adversity, is getting back up from
Yeah.
it. Now, I'll probably jump in the gun a bit, but we were going to talk about mental health a bit. Now, I suffer from dyspraxia, but I also hit every single branch on the autistic tree on the way down. So you usually hear me rambling on about something I love. So probably traits of Asperger's. You'll probably hear me knowing quite a lot traits of autism. And then with the dyspraxia, I think of a million and different things at once. I also think of the worst case scenario. So when I'm walking with my camera on treacherous ground, I'm thinking, bloody hell, I'm going to drop my camera. So you know what? That's why you buy a wrist strap, innit? But it's things like that. But for me, with mental health, it's very, very much a stigma to talk about, and especially when referring it to special needs, because a lot of adults, a lot of kids who are going through what I went through and now struggling with anxiety and now struggling with depression because they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's really positive to see people like Shabazz taking people out and getting them decompressed in the outdoors, because if they're stuck in a house at the minute, as in I'm stuck in my house, I'm working from home at the minute, I were furlonged for however you want to say it, furloughed for 8 weeks, and then I got a message saying you're working from home, same four walls, 10 hours a day. But I still push myself to get out at least for 2 miles a night, purely because if you go to work, and I don't know about you, if you go to work, you drive home, you'll leave work. Whereas if you're working from home, you never leave work. So it's important to get yourself out.
I have to say, I'm sure many people have seen, there's a film called Point Break.
Yeah.
The original Point Break, the first one with Patrick Swayze, okay, and Keanu Reeves. Now there's a line in that where they're on the beach, yeah, and they're talking, and Swayze's talking to all the rest of them about they've got to carry on doing what they're doing because they want to show, and I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember the exact words, they want to show all those people who are driving along the freeway in their metal coffins. And I suddenly thought, you know what, I'm stuck in this metal tire, this, that and the other kind of, you know, box, inching my way forward to a place where I'm not that happy, to be fair.
No.
Doing something I'm not that happy to be doing, but what it's doing is it's paying my bills, and it's allowing me to pay my mortgage, my rent, my gas, water, etc, etc. However, it wasn't until later on in life that I realized that in order to do something I want to do, which is another way of life, another way of thinking, I have to let go of my previous life, and I have to let go of that. And I'll tell you what the crux of it for me was letting go of the fear that I'm not going to have enough money.
Yes, definitely.
And once I let go of that, suddenly doors opened. I've now got my own business. I'm now traveling, I'm taking people out, I'm going for walks, I'm going rock climbing. It's all suddenly just changed, and I no longer have that fear anymore.
Yeah. I had the same realisation. Me and Shabazz worked at a very big outdoor store about 7 years ago.
Something like that,
And we both worked in retail. We saw the best of it and we saw the worst of it. But the realisation for me were 2.5 years ago, when I actually left the customer facing retail sector and went into e-commerce. I got my Saturday and Sundays back. I got my weekends back. I got my bank holidays back, and it's forgetting that, you know, I didn't necessarily take any less pay, but I found that working less but doing what I like, so working in e-commerce, working with computers, working with people, and just giving people the advice they needed was good for many years in retail. But having extra time was my breaking point. My sister had a little baby, Neve. She's now 3.5, and I realised working in retail I was never seeing her. So I got out of retail, got my weekends, got my bank holidays, and to be honest, I've seen that girl more times in the last 2 years than I ever did in the first year. And I absolutely love her to pieces. But it's like Shabazz says, freedom is everything. You need to get out, and if it takes something like that to do it, do it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I'm not saying that, you know, you will only find it in the outdoors. I found it in the outdoors. Danny found it in the outdoors. However, you got to discover what your freedom is going to be, because I tell you, I know so many people who are just unhappy in what they do, and it just leads on to stress. And you know, people have got all sorts of ailments and problems, and you know, it's leading to all sorts of, you know, for example, IBS, you know, heart problems, cholesterol problems, you know,
stress related.
the list just goes on and on and on. And I'm just going to take a moment. Look, just look around us here. Look at this forest.
And you wonder why a lot of people have taken up drawing and taken up being an artist, and just like these flowers down here, they'd be, you know, there'd be nothing to most people, but for a photographer, for people who like to draw, you know, you take a photo of that on your smartphone, it gives you inspiration. And that's the main thing with the outdoors for me. It's inspiring. Okay, it's inspiring to find that freedom outside.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to tell you a story, right? And I bet you anything, a lot of you are going to think I'm absolutely bonkers. But I went to get I went for a back appointment a couple of weeks ago, and again, it's all stress related, so just getting myself sorted out. And I sat in the waiting room, and I said to the guy, you know, know him really well, we're on the same wavelength, so to speak, who did my back. And I said to him, you know, I just sat in the chair, looked out the window, and if you look on the horizon, there's a tree line, and there's one tree sticking up higher than the other. Should we go down there?
Yeah.
That's sticking higher up than the others, and there's a branch, and it's just waving in the wind. And I just sat there for 5 minutes whilst I waited to be called in, and I just sat there watching the tree, and it was like the tree was waving at me. And it made me feel so calm and relaxed. Hello. I'm talking to a dog that's just run by.
The amount of times I've been out with my camera again, and I've looked from afar and I've gone, bloody hell, is that a red kite, or is that a heron, or whatever? And that wonder of, if it is, you know, if it is, then this is really special. You know, and you get up to it and it's a bloody branch, you know, and you kick yourself for a minute. But there's times like that, and like I quite happily will tell anyone who knows Malham. Malham's got a really ancient waterfall in it called Janet's Foss. Now, every New Year for the last 3 years, I've been up on New Year's Day. I've been the first one up there on New Year's Day from 4:30 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. I've been the first one. And this year I thought, with it being the new decade, I'd get there first. And I tell you what, I got there at 6 o'clock in the morning and I took the first photo of this decade of Janet's Foss. And I tell you what, it makes me feel very, very special to see that.
I thought I was going to swear then.
Yeah, I did as well.
Just about to say, Daddy, careful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's really interesting, because I know there's I have a friend who I was talking to him about getting a particular shot on Snowdon on the east face of it. At certain times in winter, as the sun rises, if you're very lucky, it lights up golden.
Yeah, and you can get there.
But you got to be camping on the South Ridge for that in the middle of winter. So, you know, it's a difficult one to do. But
You can also get the full rainbow halo
yeah,
on Snowdon's ridges.
Yeah.
If it has been slightly snowy at night and you wake up to the haze.
Yeah.
But it's very, very difficult to do.
yeah, no,
But
absolutely.
that's the joy of photography. The joy of photography isn't taking a picture and going, oh yeah, I took a really good picture. It's about sitting down and going, I took that photo. No one else has got that photo. You know, I've got a photo up here that I took a couple of weeks ago when it was very foggy up here. And I tell you what, it's probably one of the best photos I've ever taken.
Wow. It's interesting you talk about that because my business partner's a photographer as well, very, very keen photographer. But it's a constant conversation that I have with him. I'd like to be a keen photographer, but I'm just rubbish at it. I just can't seem to, I don't have the eye for it, I think, or whatever. But for me, looking at something and remembering that is like, I've sat there, I've seen that, I've walked there, I've seen that, I've touched it, I've experienced it. And for me, I remember the first time I ever did winter mountaineering in Scotland. We're on Otley Moor, right? This is 2015, went with two mates of mine, never done anything before. So on the hoof, they're teaching me, you know, Italian hitches and this, that and the other, and how to, you know, self-arrest, how to glissade and blah, blah, blah. And I'm learning it kind of like really, really quickly. And so we're on Otley Moor, we're climbing up this, we're trying to find the curved ridge. We weren't very successful, I have to say, but it's the first time I'd been. And I think we're about halfway up and I'm stood on a ledge, which is about maybe 1.5 to 2 feet wide with my mate. My other mate's above us, about 40 feet, trying to find the route. And it's 60 miles an hour wind. And it's literally trying to pull us off.
Yeah.
And we're not tied in to the actual face because it's all slushy snow. So there's no way to tie in at all. So the only thing attaching at all of us was this rope. And we're kind of like there. And I was like freezing my feet off.
Yeah.
And my hands were frozen. And my face was frozen. And there's snow drift everywhere, spin drift. And it's just whacking us in the face. I didn't have goggles on. Like I said, first time I'd ever been, not really understanding how layering system works in winter and boot sizes and so on and so forth. And techniques and snow
if you didn't have goggles.
Yeah, exactly. But when I got back down, my mates were looking at me and said, what's the matter with you? Because all I had was the biggest grin on my face.
Yeah.
That night when we were sat around, I said, it was fantastic. Absolutely. Because that feeling of feeling the wind, the cold, and I was like, shit, I've got to stay, excuse my language, I've got to stay on this ledge. It was the best, and every year I've been back.
I've got a similar story to that. So I've got a friend who adventures all the way across the world. He's done Patagonia, he's done Argentina, everywhere, right? And I used to go wild camping with him a lot, and we decided in winter we'd go up to Striding Edge. Now, many of you know Striding Edge isn't the easiest thing to do in dry weather.
I've got a story about that as well.
Try adding 4 feet of snow and 70 mile an hour winds. It gets even worse. But the thing was, if we didn't do it that day, we'd never do it. And that's the thing I'll always take away from it, is we did it. We got to the top of Helvellyn. We stopped at the top of Helvellyn for all of 2 seconds. But we did it, and it was something that I'll remember the rest of my life, because I had the biggest smile on my face to look back and go, see that? That's my sense of achievement right there.
I have to say something, okay, because I've got a story about Helvellyn as well. The first time I ever did it, 2 mates of mine, we all went up, no mountaineering experience at all, inadequate footwear, inadequate clothing. It was about -11, crystal blue day.
Yeah.
Beautiful, hardly any wind. But we're slipping and sliding all the way across the top. And there's people on there, and it's the first time I've seen people in helmets and crampons and ice axes, proper gear, harnesses. I didn't know what they were at the time, and I know. And they're all looking at us and giving us these dirty looks, and then one of them came up who turned out to be an instructor. And he said, what are you lot doing up here? Because you're literally slipping and sliding and laughing your heads off going across the top of Helvellyn. And we couldn't get onto the plateau.
Yeah.
So as you come off Striding Edge, there's a bit of a dip and then you go up.
And then you go up.
And we couldn't get up that slope.
Yeah.
We just couldn't get it. We just kept sliding down.
Yep.
And then one of my mates got ill. He started hallucinating because his temperature went up and we didn't know. He tried to kind of like jump off a cornice. So we grabbed him, brought him back. Then it took me 4 hours to walk him back to the car. However, what I was going to say was with these two stories and with my story especially, there's always the counter thing, which is what happens when it all goes wrong.
Yes.
And then you suddenly go, but you know what? Even with that, I firmly believe that in order to grow, achieve, in order to learn, there has to be that.
You need to make mistakes.
Yeah, you need to make mistakes. Now there is lots of debate around whether you make mistakes in a safe way or you make mistakes or you let people make mistakes. So for example, when we're taking young children, teenagers rock climbing, I know where they can fall off.
Yeah.
I know what the potential risk for that is. So I'll pick my routes and I'll get them to climb that. And I know if they do fall off, then they might swing one way or the other, or they'll just fall straight down. And there's minimal risk. So I risk assess that.
Yes.
And it's very, very important in the outdoor industry. But I do think that when you're with a bunch of mates, even I do it.
You take more risks.
Exactly.
You do.
I've been with some friends and we've been in Higgetall, which is Peak District.
Yeah.
And we've been climbing on some of the faces there in the middle of the night with flip-flops on, laughing our heads off.
Yeah. I mean, you go up to Arnscliffe.
Shouldn't have said that.
You go up to Arnscliffe, and there's people climbing that in, really flexible shoes, and you're like, how the heck are you going to get up that? Well, I tell you what, I saw a climber once, right, and we were all rigged up to go up on Arnscliffe, and he says, just before you do it, lads, can I just free climb it? And we're like, yeah, whatever. Free climbed it, and we're like, oh fuck.
He genuinely is upset. Look, there he is, walking away. I can't see him. There he is. But yeah, I mean, that sense of achievement is, I can't describe it, but it does give me a lot of freedom. So, like you say, okay, we can navigate now and we can do this and we can do that, whatever it might be in the mountains, but still having that challenge and going somewhere new for the first time. However, saying that
Brings us back to being lost.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, there was a group of us that were on top of Buckyletted Moor a couple of years ago, and it was about 50, 60 mile an hour winds, total whiteout, spin drift everywhere, cornices everywhere, and you couldn't go up the normal route because it was just all corniced out. So we went to the left of that, up to the top, found the top, and then we decided, right, we're going to navigate back to the walk-off route.
Right.
We managed to find our way back to that, but it was completely corny, so we had to work out another way. So we're there, we're map reading, we're doing all sorts of stuff, and it's one of those where you've got to get down on one knee and put your map on your knee, otherwise it'll blow away and all that sort of stuff. But we hit every trig point on the way down, and then we glissaded off the backside of Buckyletted Moor into the valley and then walked round, and it was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. But the sense of achievement when we got back was like, yes, we've done it, and we're all okay.
That's why I like getting lost, and it touches on what I was speaking about earlier. I like being lost because that achievement of finding your way back, if you have a map, map reading well, to find your way back, especially in the Lake District or the Peak District. Kinder Scout, Shabazz knows Kinder like back of his hand, but for me it's something completely different. The Peak District was something, until my early 20s I never went to the Peak District. It was always Yorkshire Dales or Lake Districts. That's where I've been raised, that's where I've been brought,
Before I got my my mountain leader qualification, you have to do a certain number of days called quality mountain days for your logbook. So one of the things that I did was I'd never been to Kinder before. I'd only kind of like done the, down in the valleys and that sort of stuff. Yeah, low Kinder, yeah. And this time it was winter, it was -12, no wind, and the top of Kinder was completely covered in thick, soupy fog. So I went up to try and navigate by myself. And I used all sorts of different techniques, but the big thing for me was staying calm.
Yes.
Now, I'd never really understood what that meant when you're out in a mountain and you're starting to kind of, because I tell you what, a lot of people do get lost and get injured because they start to panic, and one decision leads to another decision, then to another, then to another. So staying calm, finding that place where you can stay calm. I know he's keen to talk.
No,
But you've got to you got to get your word in.
I know what I was gonna say. You can relate that point quite well to swimming.
Yeah, absolutely.
So open water swimming is something I dabble in.
That's interesting.
It's not something I do a lot, but when I go wild camping, I will usually camp. Near a waterfall, or I will camp near a lake. As last week, I camped near Grisdale in the Lake District. But they always say, whenever you get into water, do not panic.
Yeah.
Let the water rush by you and let yourself acclimatise to it. Because if you're like this and flailing about, you're going to go into shock because your body's just gone, ugh. Whereas if you acclimatise to it, so you get in gently, or, you know, or even if you dive in and just stay like, you know, stay still for a minute, your body's getting used to it. Now, and that's the same thing with mountaineering. You've got to stay calm, and the same thing with all life. I know I'm an overthinker. When I get a problem at work, I like to see it through to the end, but I like to see the beginning, the middle, the end. Okay? And that's what you've got to do, and you've got to plan out. Okay, so you've got to plan, where am I starting from? Where am I ending? Now, I don't know the route we're taking here, but I know Otley Chevin very well because I was brought up around here. But I can see the beginning, middle and end because I know we're going to end up the same place where we started. Okay, the middle of it, obviously we're recording this video, I could end up on my bum. I don't really care, to be honest, but it's all about, and this is what the outdoors does for me, it relaxes me. But when you're a leader, you're taking care of 5, 6, maybe 20 people. But if you're not calm, how the hell are they going to be?
Yeah, I mean, that's, and I don't know whether it's because of my personality or what, but when I'm with a group of people, I'm very chatty, very sort of calm with them, very very easy. He's just said take high ground because he's taller than me. That's all. So we could be on the same level.
To be honest, I always saw you as, you know, quite short.
But what I was saying was that I'm very chatty, very calm with people, and if I have to make, you know, calculations regarding, you know, what time we're going to be back, how fast are we, based on how fast we're walking, how people are, if there's any injuries, what the distance of the route is, so on and so forth, I just do it in my head whilst I'm walking and chatting to people. And very rarely now, unless I'm somewhere where I've never ever been before and it's very tough terrain, don't really need to get the map out anymore and start having a look. That's only because I do certain routes time and time again. And if I am somewhere new, then what I tend to do is I study the map the night before and I have a look at what I'm going to be doing, or if I can, I go and do a recce. So I go and scope out that route. I go and do the route myself before the clients arrive. And for me, those are techniques that help to keep me calm, give me confidence, so that passes on to the people that I'm with, and then they gain confidence, because what I don't want to do is, through my own incompetence or my own lack of planning, cause something to be triggered off in them. I want them to have a good time.
Think about race drivers. You watch F1, a lot of people watch F1, GT3, everything like that. The night before, or even the week before, they'll sit on simulators and they'll do the route and they'll do it and they'll make sure they know every corner. And I'm the same. If I drive a lot to the Lake District, so I know that road really well. Not as well as I should do, because I picked up a nice little 3 points on the way there the other month. But we'll not talk about that. But A race driver will always know their route. They will always know where they're going. And on the inside, their brain might be thinking 100 mile an hour. But on the outside, they're calm as a cucumber. Or cool as a cucumber. I can't remember that one. But for me, like I touched on, I have dyspraxia. My brain runs at about 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I'm always thinking about the worst and the best case scenario. So for me, recording this video, I always have to keep pushing Shabazz to move. Because I can walk and talk, but when I'm stopped and talked, I will fill up and I will go, But when I'm walking and talking, I can think about other things, like there's a puddle in front of us, I'll need to stretch my legs out to get over that. Or I know where we're going now, we need to take this route to the left. It's just easier for me. But again, you stay calm and you stay safe.
There's so much in what that sentence you've just said about walking and talking and then allowing your mind to flow.
Yeah.
I would challenge anyone to tell me that their mind flows and relaxes when they're sat in a chair in front of a computer doing whatever they're doing. I mean, they're fixated on something, they've got a job to do. But when you're out in a forest like this, or you're on a mountaintop, or whatever it might be, on a rock face climbing vertically, you're flowing.
Yeah. And all
with your environment.
All them problems that you may have, you know what? You might sort them, because you won't be thinking about it. And then it'll come to you like that, right?
Yeah.
And you'll think, I didn't need to dwell on that, or yeah, actually this is how I'll sort it. There's been many times when I'm at work. Now, like I touched on, I moved from customer facing retail to e-commerce, right? Big thing for me. I'd worked on e-commerce sites before, but this was more in depth. So I thought, I needed, to give it a bit more of a whirl. And it's a challenge. It's so much a challenge to do. But I get through it. But there'll be times on weekends when I'm out walking and I'm not thinking about work, and I'll go, that's how I solve that problem. Because
exactly.
my brain will flow.
Yeah.
It's not thinking about things. So my mind's free. Okay. Stephen Hawking always said he was in a chair for 30, 40 years. But he always said in his mind he is free.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a really good quote, but that's a very good quote. Yeah, absolutely.
I've got a few of them,
But I mean, yeah, and I tell you, there is another thing that I've observed anyway, and I'm not 100% sure as to why it happens, but I am working with various people and chatting to various people about what the reasons behind it could be, which is when you're walking with a group, friends, clients, whatever, at the beginning of the day, you can have a conversation with people, and it will kind of bounce along at a certain sort of level. If you have that same conversation 40 minutes later, after walking uphill, an hour later, and people are tired, hot, sweaty, you can have that same conversation, and what I tend to find is that conversation gets deeper.
Yes.
People open up more.
They do.
They talk about more things. Strangers. And you're talking to each other as if you've known each other for a long time. And
Sorry, please excuse her.
yeah, it's not got the
I ain't got corona, just man flu.
yeah, he's just been drinking it early, that's all.
Well, I am off work. I am allowed a couple.
But that conversation gets deeper. So, I'm working with various people that I know who are psychologists and behavioural analysts and so on and so forth, and just trying to work out where that comes from. Why does it happen? Because it happens all the time, and I'm sure, when you're with friends, if you've joined a walking group, you're out doing whatever you're doing, rock climbing, so on and so forth. Those are the times you remember. Those are the times where you bond over.
Yeah.
You become closer. You know each other better. You know yourself better. How many times do you get that in an office setting? If all you ever do is go to the office and drive back, go to the office and drive back, geez, it's enough to drive you mad. Sorry, it drove me mad, but
Me personally, as I touched on, I have special needs. I develop connections with people differently. So if I find I can trust a person, then my connection will grow quite substantially. Whereas if I see someone who I can't trust, who's a bit, and not stereotypical, but who's a bit dodgy, I won't trust them as quickly as people who I know I can trust. Like Shabazz, we've been out a few times. I know his capability, I know my capability. That is what I can trust. So it is a big thing.
Watch the puddle.
Yeah, definitely a big thing. That puddle was also big as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's rained last couple of days, so the ground here is still pretty sodden, quite squelchy underfoot.
Thank God for Gore-Tex.
Yes, and actually saying that, I wear a lot of Neoshell,
Yes.
Polartec and Paramo.
Yep.
Works really well. I do have a Gore-Tex Pro jacket, and it's just rubbish. But I'm about to get in touch with Gore-Tex themselves and see if something can be done about it. But
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Gore-Tex fan. I always have been, always will be. My biggest Gore-Tex jacket was Mountain Equipment Lotsie. Mountain Equipment plug.
Yeah.
Now, mountain equipment for me embodies the outdoors and embodies the very much get yourself out in the worst conditions and we'll support you.
Yes. Yeah.
I also love Rab, I love Montaigne. Again, very good ethoses of companies. I've dealt with the brands a lot of years. Shabazz probably knows we have the same pants as when we used to work at the big outdoor store. We were always trying to outdo each other. So I bought a pair of Rab Vaporizers, Shabazz bought a pair, I bought a pair of Montaigne Terrors, Shabazz bought a black pair of Montaigne Terrors, and the list goes on.
So when I first met Danny, I met him working in this store, and I was just learning about materials.
By the way, we're
that
saying
sort of
the
stuff.
store because we don't want to implicate said store.
You mean it was better back then?
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it had heart. Sorry.
Hiya. So yeah, I was learning about the materials and the cuts and the layering system and that sort of stuff. So I learned a lot from Danny. And now, you know, being who we are, we wear the clothes, we try them. I think Danny does it as well, but we both do various gear reviews as well regarding clothing. You'll see one of mine on my YouTube channel, the Montaigne Terrors, where I dive into
I might send him one of my old ones, but to be honest, you might not watch it because I'm a bit of a whiny bugger.
But yeah, I mean, it's going back to the subject of mental health. It's not just the things we've spoken about before, which is freedom, relaxation, allowing your mind to flow and your body to flow, muscle memory, things like that. It's also a complete, for me, and it'll be interesting to see what you think about this, Danny, it's a completely different way of looking at things. So I, for example, recently shared a post about a tree house on Facebook, and people were making various comments on it, and one of the comments was, how would you insure something like that? And I said, well, I wouldn't even think about insuring it, because that's not why I would be there. And it made me realize that people see things like that in a completely different way. And for me, that whole thing about having a job, a career, having a pension, something to retire on, I'm just not interested in it. I am retired now.
Don't you find that's the same thing about what we're doing right now though? We're walking, we're burning calories, we're exercising. For us, it's second nature to get out into the outdoors and do it. For another person, they might want to go to the gym because that's their relaxation. They put their headphones in, and they go to the gym. So perspective is a really big thing, especially for me, dyspraxic, as you know. I see everything, you know, and my perspective is really good with my photography because on the back of my business card, yes, I have business cards. Plug of my company, Danny Robinson Photography, if you ever want to find out. I see things from different perspectives. I don't just look for that shot that everyone takes. I look for that shot that no one can. And that is how you become bespoke.
Well, that must mean that I see things that no one else sees.
He's saying he's special, guys. Special friend.
Oh dear.
I meant no offence by that, but he is special.
I think a lot of people would agree with you. Not in the way that I would want, but yeah.
You know what? After, like I say, it's all that trust issue. Trust issue. Me and Shabazz have known each other that long that banter is just, well, yeah. But you've got to know where to draw the line, and that's very important in this time. You know, in 2020 especially.
You know, it's interesting you say that. We've known each other for a long time. I've got a whole series of people lined up to do more of these talks,
yeah,
who I've never met, who have seen the first video, no doubt will see this one, and have been in touch with me and said, can they be part of it? So it's going to be interesting to see how we have our conversation.
Yeah.
Because like I said, these videos are unedited. I simply press record and just see what happens.
Yeah.
And they will be turned into podcasts as well. A couple of people have asked if they could be done into podcasts, so I'm going to do that as well.
Change my voice.
Right.
You know.
What, to Angelina Jolie?
Well,
or,
yeah, or you know, like Stewie off of Family Guy.
Right, okay.
You know, Jarvis. No, I think it's really good what you're doing. I really like the idea of what these all mean, the raw chats, because for me, outdoors is something I can feel free. You know, it's something I can get a different perspective of. I will see a tree and I will think about it differently from what Shabazz sees a tree as. You know, I'll see an image. So if you want to flip your camera around, so for me, you know, I can take an image, and someone else might not see the beauty in something like a path, but for me, there's beauty in everything, you know. So you just have to look for it, and that's the perspective that we all want to achieve.
Right, so I think it's been a good chat actually. I think we're going to stop it there. So if anybody else wants to get in touch and be part of one of these videos, by all means, send me a private message and we'll set something up. And like I said, you know, it's an unedited talk, so I don't mind at all if whatever you talk about, as long as it's not attacking a particular group of people or it's offensive, and if it is, I'll just say it during the conversation. Let's not talk about that. We'll kind of go off in a different direction.
He is very blunt.
So we'll respect each other, because you know, before I started filming this particular talk, I said to Danny, I said, look, it's unedited, so you know, it will purely capture our conversation. So that conversation could be very amiable. We might even start, you know, disagreeing with one another. It doesn't matter, because the point is we're sharing. That's why we've come on this talk in the first place. We are sharing what we want to talk about, how we relate to each other, how we relate to the outdoors with you.
We were even talking about Star Wars before this, so you can imagine how much is actually going to go into it. But I've kept myself clean. I haven't talked about Star Wars. I have had the high ground though, just if anyone wants to attack me on that, because you will fail and you will fall into the lava. But yeah, it's been great chatting with you. I'd shake your hand, but obviously COVID restrictions.
Yep.
Thanks for, you know, letting me vent.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Danny. We've been trying to set it up for a while now, and I'm really glad that it's happened. And I certainly learn something new every time I come on one of these. So there's some people walking down now, so I don't want to get them in the shot just for privacy reasons. So I'm going to stop it there. Right, see you later guys. Bye.